Hello and welcome to another tier list video. Today we are taking a look at the characters from the Arcane TV show. Now for those of you that don't know, Arcane is the recent League of Legends TV show. And I gotta say, I was a little bit skeptical going into this, but when I watched the show, I was really impressed. It's very rare that you see a video game made into a movie or a TV show and they actually do it well. But Arcane, I thought they did a phenomenal job. Really enjoyed it. I thought the animation was good. The story was good. Really had no complaints about it. The only thing that I was disappointed by was that, they're not coming out with season 2 until I think 2023 now. So it's going to be a bit of a wait for the next season, but it was a great show. And today I'm just going to be ranking the characters based on how much did I enjoy them in the show, how much did I like their character development, their character arc, and so on. So starting us off, I will say there's going to be a couple of characters like Jinx and Echo that I'm going to be ranking the young and older versions separately just because I felt like the characters were very different, especially Jinx and Powder. But the rest of them, pretty much just going to be ranking them once. So starting us off, we have Milo. Honestly, I thought he was a pretty good, I was honestly surprised how fast they got killed off, but I suppose it, kind of made sense since, him and Clagger weren't really in the lore of Jinx and Vi, but I thought Milo was a pretty good character, fairly interesting, a bit of a comic relief the first couple episodes, but not really a super likable character for me. He was kind of annoying. So for me, Milo just going to find himself in the C tier. Up next, we have Clagger. Honestly, kind of like Milo, just there in the first couple episodes before he's killed off. I would say he's definitely a bit more likable than Milo was. Clagger, just seems like a nice, teddy bear you want to give him a hug. Seems like a nice guy. I was more sad when he died than when Milo died, so Clagger, like him a little bit more, and he'll find himself up in the B tier. Up next, we have Echo, and old Echo, I really liked, but young Echo, to be honest, I wasn't really a huge fan of. I thought he was just a little bit annoying, talking all the time, getting into places he didn't belong, so I wasn't really in love with young Echo's character. I thought he was okay, kind of important to the story, but honestly, young Echo, I would say I found him more annoying than anything, so he's actually going to find himself down in the C tier. Up next, we have Powder, and honestly, I thought Powder was a really interesting character. I think they did a really good job of showing, especially in those early episodes, kind of like the mental struggles that Powder was going through, with like her image and her identity. And so I thought it was really cool, and you could see a lot of the inspiration from, her creativity as a child to kind of the weapons that Jinx makes later on. So I thought Powder overall was a pretty interesting character. Again, she's shows up in flashbacks later on, but she's more so just in the first couple episodes. But I thought she was a pretty solid character. Not really my favorite one in those first three, but I thought, she was pretty interesting, and she'll find herself up in the B tier as well. Now we're getting into the kind of the time jump after the first 3 episodes of characters, and we have Jinx. Honestly, I thought Jinx was phenomenal. You never really know exactly what her reaction or response is going to be to a situation. She's very unpredictable, which I know is what her character is supposed to be, but even when a character is supposed to be unpredictable in a TV show, usually you can predict their unpredictability. But Jinx, honestly, I really didn't know what she was going to do in any situation, and I thought she was really cool. The voice actress did a great job. Jinx, honestly, gonna find herself up in the S tier. Up next, we have Vi. Honestly, another one that's just, really cool. Vi before the time jump and Vi after the time jump are, I would say, relatively similar characters. That doesn't really change as much as someone like Echo or, Powder to Jinx does. But Vi's still a very solid character, probably, I would say, the main character of the show, really. But she's not quite as interesting as Jinx for me. Like, I really love Jinx's character, and Vi is a great character, don't get me wrong, but she just doesn't quite have those wow moments for me that Jinx did, so Vi, still a great character, gonna find herself up in the A tier. Up next, we have Echo. Now, honestly, old Echo is easily my favorite character in the show. Just like everything he does, he's just like so cool. He's got the swagger, he's got the technology, he's got the confidence, he's got the hairstyle, honestly. Echo, just a great character. I loved his character development from young Echo to old Echo, becoming the leader of the Firelights. Just a phenomenal character arc through a single season, so really impressed with him, and he's definitely going to be up in the S tier for me. Up next, we have Vander. Another great character who you really like right out of the gate, and then as every episode goes on, at least while he's still alive, you just like him more and more. I mean, he's just, you know, I love the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, and he for me is kind of like the Uncle Iroh of Arcane. You know, he's always got other people's best interests in mind, even when it's at cost to him. And you know, I just think that makes a great character. I thought the character was played really well, and he's also going to find himself up in the S tier. Up next, we have Benzo, and a pretty good character, kind of a side character to Vander, I would say, but still interesting nonetheless. Not really my favorite because, you know, you don't really see enough of him to really get attached to him, but I was a bit sad when he died, but I would say he's really just, you know, a solid side character, not super critical to the story, but a good one to have in there nonetheless, so he'll find himself in a C tier. Up next, we have Jace. Now, honestly, Jace at the beginning, you know, those first 3 episodes, I thought he was good, but I didn't really love Jace. I didn't really feel him that much, but you know, the rest of the episodes, I just thought his character got more and more and more interesting. And when he gets his hammer, honestly, those are some of the coolest scenes in the show. So Jace, another one, I would say at the beginning of the season, you know, episodes 1 through 3, probably would have been like probably a D tier for me. But by the end, he was an S tier, so it'll kind of balance out a little bit. So he'll find himself in the A tier just because I didn't love him in the beginning, but he's a great character by the end. Up next, we have Victor. Honestly, another really solid character. I wasn't super interested with him at the beginning either, even though I knew eventually, you know, he's going to become the Victor that we know in League of Legends. But I thought, you know, as the season went on, he just got more and more interesting. You know, you could really see, you know, his mindset change as he began to get more sick and get closer to death, really. So Victor, honestly, another one where at the beginning probably would have been like a D or a C tier, but by the end, he was up in the A tier, so that'll balance out to about a B tier for me. Up next, we have Sky. Really a rather inconsequential character, I would say, outside of, you know, her just being interested in Victor. But I will say the scene where she gets evaporated when Victor is trying to basically, I don't know, become more of the Hex Core, and she gets evaporated. I thought that scene was really powerful, and, you know, it really shows just how far Victor had gone and kind of made him reflect on what he was doing. So I don't think her character is super important, but the role that she played in that scene was really important. But outside of that, honestly, not super important. So she'll find herself down in the D tier just because she really only had one scene that I thought was, you know, important for her to be there. Up next, we have Caitlyn. Honestly, just another pretty good character. I would say not necessarily a side character, but a side character to Vi, a partner to Vi. But I would say pretty interesting. You know, her storyline is pretty interesting as well. I enjoyed the scenes with, you know, her family and that dynamic. So Caitlyn will find herself in a solid B tier. Up next, we have Heimerdinger. Man, why don't people just listen to Heimerdinger? If everybody listened to Heimerdinger, this whole movie would have been so smooth. This whole show, rather. But people don't. But Heimerdinger, honestly, in League of Legends, I hate Heimerdinger. I cannot stand him. He's one of the most annoying champions for me to face. I can't stand Heimerdinger. In the show, he's fantastic. I love Heimerdinger. Gonna be up in the S tier. Up next, we have Mel. Now, once again, kind of like Jace, this was a character who I wasn't super interested in, you know, the first couple episodes, and to be honest, I really didn't expect her to play such an impactful role the rest of the series. But she really does have a significant role to play in terms of, you know, the things going on behind the scenes and the politics at hand. But I think Mel's character is really good, and you really see a lot more of her in the development of her as the series goes on. So Mel, I would say, you know, at the beginning, a character I would have put in the C tier, but by the end, would have been up in the A tier, so that'll kind of balance out, and she'll end up in the B tier. Up next, we have Mel's mother. I guess I don't really know her first name. It's Mrs. Madara, I guess. Honestly, I wasn't super interested. I was really excited when she first showed up. I was like, oh, this is going to be super interesting. But honestly, the main thing she just did was beg for the Hextech weaponry and, you know, take baths, really. That was kind of all she did, so I wasn't super impressed with the role that she played later in the season. I thought she was going to have more, you know, more of an impact on what was going on, but she really didn't, and so I was a bit disappointed by that, so she'll find herself down in the D tier. Up next, we have Grayson, I believe, Enforcer Grayson. She was, of course, the one who had the deal with Vander before she was killed. Honestly, we don't see too much of her, but I think that she's really good, and you can tell that you know, even though she's, you know, breaking the law by having this deal with the underworld, the underground, that is, you know, she really has the the best interests of both places, you know, in her mind. And so I think she's a pretty interesting character. Pretty sad that she got killed off, but what we did see of her, I think she was pretty good, and she'll find herself up in the B tier. Up next, we have Marcus. Honestly, a guy that right off the bat, they make you not like at all. You're like, this guy is just, he's annoying. You know, he's just a stuck-up enforcer. But as the show goes on, and, you know, once he takes that deal with Silko, you can really see him regret that, and, you know, he wants to back out of it. But of course, you know, Silko shows up to his house and indirectly threatens his daughter. And so, honestly, I think Marcus is a really interesting character, and I think the dynamic that he faces in the show is really good. So, at the beginning, not somebody I liked. By the end, I was really liking him. So, Marcus gonna find himself up in the B tier. Up next, we have Singed. Honestly, I didn't even know he was Singed until, like, the very end of the show when someone told me, hey, that's Singed. I know they said his name, you know, at like one point in the later episodes, but I think I missed it. But I think he's a pretty cool character. I think he looks a lot different than I would have expected him based on the, you know, League of Legends game. But I think that his character really lines up with, you know, somebody who is experimental and somebody, you know, making a deal with him is kind of like making the deal with the devil. Like when Silko takes Jinx to be basically brought back to life from Singed. You can tell that, you know, what he does, you know, permanently changes Jinx in some ways. And so I think Singed is a really good, like, villain's villain, if you will. Like, he's kind of a bad guy, but he's only kind of a bad guy to the good guys, and he's even kind of a bad guy to the bad guys as well. You know, he's not really someone who can be trusted. He's kind of out for his own interests. So I really like Singed's character, and I think that he's developed well, and he'll find himself up in the A tier. Up next, we have Savika, of course, Silko's, I guess, I don't know, assistant. Honestly, I think she is super cool. I think she's a really interesting character. You know, I like her style. I like her, you know, arm thing. And I'm really hoping that we get Savika as a League of Legends champion. I think she would make a really good addition. I think even just her character kind of seems like pretty fitting. She's almost like an Alawi crossed with, like, I don't know, a Blitzcrank or something. But honestly, Savika, I think she's really cool, a really great character. Always enjoy her anytime she's on screen. So definitely going to find herself up in a very solid A tier. Last but certainly not least, we have Silko. Now, honestly, at the very beginning of the show, when we were first learning about Silko, I'm like, okay, this guy's kind of just like a villain for villain's sake because they need a bad guy. Like, I didn't really see his motive or understand exactly, you know, where he was coming from or be able to relate to him. But as the show went on, and especially as you see him becoming more and more attached to Jinx, you really kind of see both sides of the villain. And, you know, by the end, I could really see, you know, and understand the decisions that he was making. Oftentimes in shows and movies, you know, you have a villain where, you know, they're just doing something evil for the sake of being evil. But Silko, with, you know, wanting to have Zaun be independent from Piltover, I could really understand his agenda and understand his decision making. And overall, I just thought he was a super good villain. The voice actor was incredible. I think the voice and the delivery of the lines that Silko gave in the show was just phenomenal. So outside of Echo, I would say Silko was my favorite character, and he will definitely find himself up in the S tier. Well, that's my list. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed.